Hello everyone, welcome. Today we have with us Rahul Raman, who did his undergrad in Manipal, MIT, and is now is doing his MS in Electrical Science at Penn State University. So today we are just going to, understand Rahul's journey from scratch, and he's just going to trace it back, his entire journey till the point he reached Penn State. So over to you, Rahul. Thanks for joining. So the first question, of
Hey,
course,
good morning, everyone. I'm
yeah,
Akash.
yeah, hi. So the first question, the obvious question, GRE. So what was your score
Yeah.
and how did you prepare for it?
Okay, so a background on GRE. Any aspirant who is planning to do a master's in the United States has to give GRE, which is known as the Graduate Record Examination. So it's a prerequisite basically, and it's something which you require for applying to any universities. So it basically comprises of three sections. There's an essay writing, which is called analytical writing analysis. And then there's quantitative reasoning, which is mostly your mathematics from basic elementary mathematics, nothing too advanced. And there's verbal reasoning, which tests your English language skills. The analytical writing analysis is valued out of 6, and the quantitative and verbal reasoning sections are 170 points each. So yeah, my personal score was 324 out of 340 and 3.5 out of 6 in analytical writing analysis. And so yeah,
What was
that
the,
was
what
my
was the
personal.
breakup, Rahul, like between quant and verbal?
My quantitative score was full complete 170, and my verbal score was 154 out of 170.
Amazing, amazing. So like in which way did you prepare for your quant,
Yeah.
since you have such an amazing score in that?
Yeah, so I'll break out the my strategy in both quants
Mm-hmm.
and verbal so that it's more beneficial. So
Mm-hmm.
for quantitative analysis, I guess if you're an engineering major, which I'm sure 90% of the target audience will be, you will naturally be really good at quantitative section, I would say. Even if you give it today randomly, I
Mm-hmm.
think you might even score close to 160 something out of 170 if you were good
Mm-hmm.
at your elementary school math. Quantitative shouldn't be that much of a problem to get a score till 160. The main issue with quantitative is if you want to get a score above 165, you have to be you have to follow some particular strategies,
Mm-hmm.
because what the GRE exam settings does to you is they'll try to set you into traps. They have really specific questions which
Mm-hmm.
will have two answers, which will have an answer which you will arrive by doing some silly careless mistakes or not taking some factors into consideration. And you'll think that it's right, but it's the wrong option, and that will be there in the answer, and they'll set you up in a trap basically.
Okay.
So if you want to maximize your score in the GRE, you have to basically work on understanding and be very careful with those trap questions, as I refer them to.
Mm-hmm.
So for that, what I did was, it's the GRE is conducted by an organization called the ETS. So they issue official guides, a general official guide as well as official quantitative and verbal guides. So I think the best way to start your GRE preparation is to go through the official guide as well as the official quantitative guide, because I it might seem to be too basic, but
Mm-hmm.
you need to start from the basics. Even though you will feel like you know 99% of the stuff which is in there, I'd still recommend you to go through the entire theory which is there in the starting, as well as each and every basic questions which they have in the individual chapters dedicated to those theories. You will get 99% of the questions right, but you will get questions wrong as well, and those are the questions, are the trap questions, which you will get most probably get wrong in your examination as well. And those are the questions which will bring your quantitative score down, because in
Mm-hmm.
general quants is a really scoring section, so you basically want to maximize your quant score as much as you can. So what I followed was, I started with the ETS official guides.
Mm-hmm.
I studied the entire theory of it, marked the particular aspects of the theory and shortcuts which I was not aware of. I solved the entire ETS official guide. There are not many questions, but it was still a great learning experience, I would say. And then I switched to a book called Manhattan 5LB, which is a really, really resourceful book. It's a really huge book as well. It has lots of questions. I think there were 30 to 33 subsections in quants. Each
Okay.
chapter had some 30, 40 questions. And I did the same technique in that as well. I solved each and every questions because I now had the basic knowledge of the ETS official guide. Again, I was falling into traps. I was falling into silly mistakes and carelessness. So what I did was I marked those questions which I was falling, which were trap questions. I encircled those, and in my second attempt, I was really, really conscious in solving them. If I did them wrong again, I would mark them wrong again. And basically, it's basically elimination of your errors, right? So I was studying my errors. What exactly was I was doing wrong? Which types of questions I was getting it wrong? So when I went to give my final examination, when that type of question appeared on the screen, I was really, my mind was alerted. Okay, I have to be really careful in this question. So basically, error elimination is what I did in quants. I think quants should not be that much of an issue if we are doing engineering, but to maximize the score, that technique really worked for me in the quant section.
Perfect. Perfect. Now coming to the verbal section, like
Yeah.
what is your strategy over there?
I followed the same two books for verbal as well, but for verbal, I feel like I could have done much better in reading comprehensions, which is where most of us will struggle the most. So verbal section, a brief background about verbal section, it will have three types of questions basically. There will be approximately 10 questions of reading comprehension. There will be, and there will be 10 questions which will test your vocabulary, I would say. Now, coming to the vocabulary section first, because that I feel is more straightforward, even though it's not that easy as well, but it's more straightforward than reading comprehension. So for vocabulary, even though we have started in English medium schools all our lives, and our mode of instruction has always been English, we do not know 80% of the words which they're going to ask in their GRE. So for that, you need to learn words, and learning words may be fun, but maybe taxing as well, because it's a long process. So learning words, I used flashcards, which I think most of us do. There are tons of flashcard apps, mobile apps on Android as well as iOS. You can download. I use the ETS GRE flashcards on the app. Around 2,000 words were there. Then I used Barron's 330 high frequency words which appear on the exam. Basically, you can take out any list and start doing it. The tricks for remembering the words. You have to follow some tricks. You have to relate some words to a particular instance and all, because there are so many words that it might not be able to physically retain those words, the meanings of those words, thousands and 2,000s of words in your mind. So you have to keep on doing it for a long period of time. I think I started doing flashcards 6 months before or 5 months before. And I used to do it again and again in my free time. If I'm eating something, if there's a class going on and the teacher is not there yet, I would do flashcards. I kind of started to like it. At first, it was really taxing, but if you do it again and again, you will remember.
It's kind of fun. Yeah, and you kind of remember. Yeah. And the one thing I would like to add is, as Rahul said, just remembering the words is not enough. You just need to know where to use it and how to use it. I believe that also holds the key, right? Yeah. So, like, how did you practice that? Were you just using those in some sentences, or like?
Yeah, I think the ETS app, when you tap the word, it shows the meaning as well as a sentence. So it's very imperative that you read the sentence as well. Otherwise, just the meaning might not be. If you read the sentence, that sentence stays with you as well. Sometimes, and you're like, oh, it was used in this sentence, so you get the general feel of the word as well.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much, Rahul. That was a very
I just wanted to add for the reading comprehension section. It feels like it should be easy because we have been doing comprehension exams in our schools, and in Manipal as well, we used to do comprehensions. But reading comprehension in GRE is not straightforward at all. the options, first of all, again, you need to have a strong vocabulary to read those passages as well. It's not going to be as straightforward as your school passages and even college passages were. And secondly, you really need to analyze the options because they will be extremely close. You'll feel at least 3 out of the 4 options might be the right answer to that. So I think majority of your verbal section preparation should go to the reading comprehension. And what I did not do in the reading comprehension is analyze my. I just practiced it. I did practice a lot of reading comprehension, but since my verbal score was not that much up to the mark as my quant score, it's because I did not analyze it while preparing. If you remember, I analyzed my mistakes in quants while preparing.
Exactly.
But if you do the same with verbal, I feel like you will do really well in verbal as well. You might score 160 plus in verbal as well, which is a really good score for people who are not exactly in the literature background. Yeah.
Agreed. Thank you so much, Rahul. It was quite extensive. Now, after your GRE, obviously there's a debate between TOEFL and IELTS. Some people give TOEFL, some give IELTS. So as I know, you decided to give TOEFL. So what was the reason behind giving TOEFL over IELTS, and how was your experience with it?
Okay, so if you are planning to apply to just the US, I would say give TOEFL. I personally feel it's less hectic. It's easier as well. I've gone through the syllabus of both TOEFL and IELTS, and no university in the US will reject a TOEFL score. But there are 1% of the universities which might not take IELTS score. So I'm sure that's not going to be an issue if you want to apply to US. 99.5% of the centers will take the IELTS, but I feel TOEFL was easier. And since I had to apply to just the US, I was pretty sure I'm not going to apply to any other place. So I gave the TOEFL. But if you're planning to apply to anywhere outside the US, you cannot give TOEFL because they don't accept it. If you're planning to apply to UK, if you're planning to apply to Europe, if you're planning to apply to Canada, you have to give IELTS. There's no other alternative. And it's accepted like 99.5% of the universities in the US as well. So if you're planning to apply anywhere outside the US, your best bet would be IELTS. Even if you're applying to US, you can give IELTS, but personally, I would say give TOEFL because I felt that was easier than IELTS. But yeah, it's up to you then. Yeah.
Okay. So what was your experience with it? The exam. What is
for the TOEFL examination, definitely not that much effort is required as much is required in GRE. That being said, you do need 15 to 30 days of preparation for TOEFL as well. So there are 4 sections: reading, writing, listening, and speaking. So the most conscious section we are in is speaking. I would say my speaking has improved over the past year, but before that, especially when you have a timer set on you, you are conscious in speaking. So you need to practice yourself. You need to give mock TOEFL tests. You need to put in timers in your phones and select random topics from the ATS official TOEFL guides or some other resources, and just practice a lot. If you practice for 15 to 30 days, you would become definitely better and you would feel less conscious on the day of the examination.
And it is always advisable, right, to just give the TOEFL right after your GRE if possible.
Yeah, if possible, yeah, definitely should, because for the reading, writing, and speaking skills, listening skills, it's not going to be that much of a challenge. That being said, you still have to do a lot of mock practice. That would help a lot. But for the speaking, another issue which you might face while giving the examination is that it's not going to be a really silent examination because people around you are going to speak as well. So I would say if you can practice in a noisy environment, that would be even better, because I did not practice in a noisy environment, and it was kind of even though I was prepared and not conscious, it was kind of a challenge back then. So yeah, and throughout, because it's not starting at the same time for every time. We have slots like every 15 minutes, and someone new will come in and someone will go out. So it's like even when you are even when you are attempting the writing section, someone will be speaking. Someone might be speaking right beside you. So yeah, I think if you can practice in a slightly noisy environment, that would be even better, I would say. But I think it does not require as much of efforts in GRE if you do 15 to 30 days of preparation. If you follow the standard books, and if you follow speaking practice for 15 to 30 days, you should be fine in TOEFL. Yeah.
Perfect. So, once your exams are over, let's just get to the application part. So, like, there are just two main things which come, which is your SOP, the statement of purpose, and your LOR, which your faculties or your instructors or the people from your work experience give you. So, like, coming to the SOP, like, what are the key things to be kept in mind, and what are some obvious mistakes which you can, it's better to just avoid them.
Yeah, definitely. I would say, can you repeat the last part of the question again? So I can answer.
No worries. I was just saying, like, in the SOP, what are the things that you must, keep in mind, and just make sure that are there in your application, and what are some things which you feel kind of mistakes which people do, some things you should definitely avoid writing in your application.
Yeah. So for the SOP, the first and foremost thing is, this is the most important aspect of your application, I would say, even more important than your GRE or your overall grade GPA, because this is a direct pitch to the university faculty who is going to make the decision for you. So even if say you have a low GRE or a low GPA, if your SOP is really good and really appealing and they feel is really relevant, there's a high chance they'll select you over someone who has maybe even a better GRE or a GPA. So what you need to understand is it's a research-based course primarily. So especially if you're applying to a research-based university, it's better if you highlight some of your technical projects which you have done. You should definitely get into a habit of doing a project on the side. If you have not done it, you maybe have to glorify your class projects or the subject projects as much as you can if you have done really good in them, because they want to see how you've worked on a technical project before, because you will be working on a lot of practical aspects once you come here for masters. Even if you do not work independently, the coursework here is really heavily derived on projects. More than 50% of the weightage for most of my courses have been on technical projects, and they are not the many projects which you do in college. They are extremely more thorough, I would say. So that is one of the aspects which you need to highlight. You need to highlight your co-curriculars, extracurriculars as well. You need to highlight your coursework, relevant coursework. So what I would say is, do not just put in random coursework. If you are applying for a particular domain in a field, highlight on those coursework and highlight what you've done in those coursework as well. And I would say give a lot of time on drafting the SOP, at least 2 to 3 months, because go through a lot of sample SOPs. It will not come as straightforward as you think, that you can finish it in 10 days or 15 days. You would need to perfect it over and over again. You do not want it to, even though they don't care that much about vocabulary or language, you do want it to sound a little bit more sophisticated. It definitely adds to the charm of the SOP, I would say. And if there are some negative aspects of your applications, you can maybe try to reason something positive into that. If you have a low GPA, suppose, you can say that if you have a low GPA because you did bad in your initial semesters, you can say that even though my GPA is low, or actually you can just avoid that. You can say that I have a constant trend of increasing GPA. You need to put in positive spins on the negative aspects of your application. That might work. Or you can just skip. You do not want to give a negative vibe from your SOP.
Agreed,
you do not want to highlight any weaknesses of you, because it's a direct pitch. They don't have to know until they figure it out themselves. If they do, it's okay. You can't help that. Yeah.
Perfectly explained, Rahul. Thank you so much. So, like, after everything's done, SOP, LOR, then comes the college selection part, Of course, for some of us, we have a dream, ambitious universities already in place. But for some of us, who just don't know which university they want to go into, like what is the correct way, to just search for the right university for you? And how do you know that that university is a perfect fit for you?
Okay. So yeah, university selection requires a lot of you know
Efforts.
research as well, I would
Yeah.
say, because there are some universities which are GRE centric, as people say, and there are some universities which are GPA centric. So you cannot, even though you can form a selection list based on the rankings
Mm-hmm.
and based on your seniors, you need to analyze your situation with respect to the university. For example, there are particular universities, I'm not going to name them, I don't want to
Mm-hmm.
name them, but they will not even view your application if your GPA is less than 9. They don't care. I have very, very, very rarely seen a person with a GPA less than 9 or an 8.5,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not even subjective, relative, nothing. If they see a number which is less than that, they will not. So there's no, even though they are good universities, there's no point in applying to those even if you have a good GRE and a less GPA.
Agree.
Similarly, there are some universities which will not select you if your GRE score is particular below a particular level. So there's no point in applying to those universities as well. Of course, that if you want to get into a really good universities, you need to have both as well. So that's
Mm-hmm.
not going to be a trade-off that you can afford. Yeah, so how do you come to know regarding this? I would say is talk to your seniors, talk to the people. If you go to LinkedIn, or
LinkedIn.
there are apps like Yocket. If you go
Mm-hmm.
to Yocket and you can see people who've got admits in those places, you can maybe take the names and connect with them on LinkedIn or some other
Mm-hmm.
platform, and you can ask them, what are my chances realistically, what are your batchmates like, is it something which might be an issue in me applying to that. And at the same time, you can also get a insight on the coursework, and because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes there might not be to a lot of emphasis on that particular domain which you're trying to apply to. So there was one really good university, but I was trying to applying for at that time signal processing, and that did
Mm-hmm.
not have a lot of signal processing coursework and research labs dedicated to that. So I decided to not to go ahead with that. So you have to connect with the people at the university level, and that's going to be your best bet, rather than applying randomly based on the rankings, because you want to maximize the number of admits you get so that you have the decision. Because sometimes
Agreed.
there's a lot of factors in selecting a final universities as well, the tuition
Mm-hmm.
fee, the location, and the weather maybe for some people as well. So if you have more decisions, like I had seven universities admit, so I could really analyze it properly and select the best fit for me. So you definitely would want to analyze the selection of the universities really well before you apply to them, so that you have maximum number of chances to get into them. I'm not saying you will get into every universities, and there has to be a mix of
Mm-hmm.
moderate, ambitious, safe, like high rankings universities, mid ranking, as well as maybe a mid to low ranking university, so that you know that you will have at least those admits. Those are the safe universities, you can say. But even in those selection, you need to analyze, because there are some ambitious universities which will be just no use of applying to, because they will not accept you if your GPA is less than particular threshold, or
Agreed.
your GRE is less than the
So you
particular
might need to
threshold.
do that research extensively, before spending your
Yeah,
100 or
yeah.
$150 on the application.
Yeah, because it's not a
Mhm.
very cheap process as
Yeah.
well. The application process is kind of expensive, so you need to analyze your application, your target universities
Hmm.
really well, I would say.
Perfect. Perfect. So after all this is done, you get your dream admit. You go there. One step before that is a visa interview. So like, just share
Yeah.
us your visa experience and the mistakes one should definitely avoid doing.
Okay. So the after you get your admits,
Mm-hmm.
you'll be issued a form which is called the I-20. So the I-20 is a form which will consist of the program details, the program duration, as well as the approximate fee of tuition plus living expenses for 1 year. So to get that, you have to show the proof of funds to the university first. and you need to have the proof of funds for the visa interview as well. So the first thing you do is start gathering your financial documents. What can be included in the financial documents is your home is your house property evaluations, your bank balances of your father and your mother, and you can include the student loan as well if you feel like those two or all the assets which you have are not as much as or you don't want to show them. You can show a loan sanction letter in that place as well. That counts as the financial proof as well.
Perfect.
So all these you'll need to gather, you'll need to send to the university. So they'll issue you an I-20 and they'll ship the I-20 to you physically. Once you have the I-20, you can start to book the visa slot and visa interview. You can start your visa application process. So visa application process is it's pretty self-explanatory. There's a website called the USCIS website. If you just type that, you would come to know it's pretty self-explanatory once you're in there, how to book a visa slot and the university will send you a packet which will have those as well. Yeah, so once you have that for the visa interview, again, there are certain things which you should keep in mind. They for us, the F1 visa is a student visa which is being issued. So for them, it's like you are coming here just to study because you feel like this course will help you in your future aspects, but in your own home country. So you need to, tell them that you need to convince them that you're coming here just for studying and you're gaining sound technical knowledge, which might not have been available to you in your home country, and this is a good prospect for you. And they will verify the financial documents, they will verify your transcripts, they will ask you your GRE score. To be honest, it can be really random. A lot depends on your visa officer as well. But mostly if you're coming to a really good university or a decent university, you have good scores, you have good transcripts, your financials are good, and you do not give a vibe that you want to come here and for anything apart from your studies, I think that should be fine. Be confident when you're giving your answers. If you stutter or if you stammer a lot and if you're shaking, you're nervous, they might feel a little bit of suspicion. Be confident, be normal, and answer straight to the point. I would say do not go beat around the bush, and do some research on your university, do some research on your coursework, do some research on your professors under which you are intending to work or take classes at. And that should be fine. Then it should not be an issue. If you have a good university, it shouldn't be an issue at all. But you have to keep the other things in mind as well.
Perfectly explained, Rahul. So, lastly, when you go there, so just tell us about your experience, studying there and now working as a teaching assistant over there. How has it been? And, what are the things, as a student who goes there, how do you apply for that position as that of a teaching assistant?
Okay, so first, when you come here, you need to enroll into coursework, and every university has different amount of prerequisite for the degree. We have 32 credits, so it's like we have to take 8 coursework over the 2 years or 1.5 years, however long we want it to be. And there are some research credits allotted as well, and there are some seminar credits as well. So in the first semester, most of you will take only coursework and you will try to find a research advisor, I would think. For most of us, it's like that. So for coursework selection also, be really particular because those are the things which will be applying for internships and for full-time jobs as well. So it should not be a total mismatch. Like you can't take machine learning coursework and apply for hardware roles. You can't take software courses and apply for machine learning roles, So be wise in your coursework selection. They will not be as easy as your undergrad coursework. They will involve a lot of projects, and they will be really difficult as well. Theoretical aspects of them will not be easy as well. So you'll need to grind a lot more definitely because in engineering, I don't want to say it, but most of us were pretty chill and
That's true. That's true.
work, and we used to sail through even
Mm-hmm.
at working not a lot, but it will not work in masters, I would say. And yeah, regarding the living expenses, having a part-time job always helps, because it's not, I'm not going to sugarcoat it, the US is expensive, especially when you convert, especially since you have the purchasing aspect here is in terms of dollars. The conversion always hurts. I would say do not think of converting at all, because it will literally physically hurt you when you convert and see how much are you paying in Indian rupees. So a good way to scupper your living expenses is working part time. In the first semester, since I did not have any departmental contacts, I worked part time as a host and a
Mm-hmm.
cashier at the Penn State's on campus restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
I would say do not be conscious. Literally everyone, even the rich kids here of the US rich kids, they also work part time. It's a, you would feel conscious. Oh, I don't want to work in a restaurant. I don't want to greet
Mm-hmm.
people. I don't want to serve people coffee or something. But at the end of the day, it's helping you with the living expenses, right?
That's true.
So why not? And people here will not judge you for. In fact, they'll respect you more, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. So in the first semester, I worked as a host and a cashier at the Penn State's on-campus restaurant. One thing about part-time jobs is you cannot work off-campus. Please do not try to work on-campus. Otherwise, if they find it,
Mm-hmm.
they'll deport you straight away and they'll cancel your visa. It's illegal for us, for international students, to work off-campus. It might pay more, but please do not go in that route. It might pay double of your on-campus jobs, but
Mm-hmm.
please do not go into that route. Yeah. And in the second semester, then I found some grading and assistantships in my department. The departments, usually every university's department will release those forms. I would say be very prompt, apply on the same day as they release those applications, because it might be first come first serve, you never know. And definitely the coursework which you have taken in the first semester, try to get in contact with the professors and ask them if they have any assistantship positions, if they have any grader
Mm-hmm.
jobs, if they have any other, because it's always good to work within your department. And
Agreed.
yeah, so yeah, I applied for the assistantship positions which were being released. I applied really promptly, really early. So
Mm-hmm.
fortunately, I got into that, and I'm working as a assistant. I'm working on an assistantship. I'm teaching undergrad labs to students. It's not really that hectic as well, and you get paid. You get paid enough that you can cover your living expenses.
At least
So
the
that's
rent
what.
part, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Perfect, perfect. Thank you so much, Rahul, for this. I'm pretty
No
sure it was helpful. Thank you so much again.
no
Thank you.
problem, guys. Thank you. Yeah.